Article 27 is effectively, according to me, the crystal clear exposition of the separation of the temple or the church or the masjid or the gurudwara from the state. Because it says that tax money cannot be used for the maintenance of a religious institution or promotion of a certain religion. That's what Article 27 says. So in light of this provision, we have to ask ourselves, if this is what the Constitution says in Article 27, how is this temple receiving funds from the state? How can it get state funds?
Yes.
That should be the first question that should arise.
Yes.
There is a historical background to it which people have, in fact most people are not even aware of it. We were the first ones to place this before the court. The temple receives 51 lakhs from the Consolidated Fund of India through the state government as a consequence of Article 290A. This article was amended, I think, in 1956 because the amount was increased at that point of time. From 46 to 51 lakhs, an amount was increased. Why was this increased? How is the state going on increasing this? There is a reason for it. In 1922, there was no constitutional India as we know it today. It was still princely states. This temple fell within the Travancore princely state. The Travancore princely state took over all the lands of that particular temple for the purposes of management of that particular temple and said, we are taking away your lands and in return you will get 51 lakhs or a certain amount every year for the lands that we have taken, which was the primary source of your revenue and income for your upkeep and maintenance. When the Travancore princely state merged with the Union of India, there are covenants of mergers which were entered into between the princely states and the Indian Union. So we placed that particular proclamation of 1922 through the 1939 Travancore Manual, which captures this particular announcement by the king of Travancore who says, I'm taking over these lands and I shall give rent in return. Okay? So when the Indian state took over, it also took over the liabilities and the assets of the princely states.
Okay.
Therefore, when the Indian state took over, it also took over the lands.
Yes.
And therefore, it had to pay the rent. Therefore, this is not some kind of a dana or a charity or a fund.
This is just rent.
This is rent that the Indian state owes for having taken over the lands of the temple. Therefore, this is not state funded. Not one iota of money comes from the state to this particular temple because it cannot, it is unconstitutional. Right? This factual history, the petitioners did not place before the court. Nobody placed before the court. We were the first ones to place before the court. Secondly, the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court in 1954 in the Shirur Math case clearly said that the state shall not interfere with the religious practices of an institution. It shall only be responsible for the secular aspects of administration under 25(2)(a). Therefore, just because you give money, assume that you are actually giving money as dana or contribution, you have no right to interfere with the religious practices. Even that is the law. First of all, it's not your money. It is my money that you're giving back to me.